What you doing, Diggletdreamers? You got Mathers back for yet another Vitality Draft League video. This is week 2, Boston Weasels, aka my team, versus the Victini Plzen, the FC Victini Plzen. I think I'm pronouncing that correct. As you can see, I'm bringing Dracovish, and this time I decided to bring the Sand Rush version. So I've got, of course, Tyranitar right here as my sand setter. I've got Zapdos here because my opponent does have Mega Lopunny, and I definitely need something to tank those hits and potentially get off a static. Maybe not. Then I've also got Scarf Gardevoir's back because that thing is it's such a nice Scarfer. It hits such a nice speed tier for a lot of things. And just look at this team. I specifically brought a Gardevoir that didn't even have Psychic because I thought, there's nothing to hit with it. Like, he doesn't have his full team here, obviously, but on the rest of the team, I was like, there's nothing that I don't hit harder with Moonblast than with Psychic. So I'm literally running Moonblast Mystical Fire. I forget why, but there was something else on his team, some kind of Steel type that could switch into Moonblast, and I was like, it could also switch into Psychic, so let me just bring Moonblast Mystical Fire, and then support moves as the last two. And then I have Swellow, Choice Specs, Boom Burst, which is pretty sweet versus his team. Obviously Lycanroc resists it, but that's pretty much the only resist to the normal type move, Boom Burst. Muck actually is a much better switch in than I originally anticipated. Put an Assault Vest on that thing and it's tank and hits. But the idea, of course, is to U-turn on the switch and bring in Dracovish and try to get a big hit off. I've also got Cobalion as kind of my potential late game sweeper. It's actually Double Dance, Swords Dance, Rock Polish. Because just looking at his team, I mean, look at this team that it brought. Where's the fighting resist? It doesn't exist. So Swords Dance is super nice, makes this into a pretty powerful breaker. Nothing on this team switches into a +2 Swords Dance really, except Muck maybe. And then if I manage to weaken the team enough, I get Stealth Rocks up with my Tyranitar, and then I have Rock Polish as well to outspeed everything and basically knock everything out with a little Stealth Rock chip. So that's the idea with the team. So let's look at my opponent's team. They got Mega Lopunny, one of the biggest offensive threats on the team. They brought Lycanroc, which does have Sand Rush, so I gotta watch out for that. I do have Trace Gardevoirs basically specifically for that situation, so I can trace Sand Rush, and then with my Choice Scarfed Sand Rush, I'm able to outspeed like most Sand Rushers, I think. And then Hydreigon, another big offensive threat. Checked a lot by Gardevoir though, especially with the Scarf, and then of course got to figure out if it is Scarfed or not. And then Alolan Muck, pretty big defensive pivot for the team. I don't have anything that outright KOs it, except maybe like a Fish's Rend. Lickitung, pretty, undervalued, bulky Pokemon with an Eviolite. Good Cleric with Wish and Heal Bell and stuff like that. And Lapras is water immunity, which, makes it harder to click Fish's Rend. But I do be packing Low Kick. So Banded, Adamant, Low Kick, actually 2-hit KOs, even max HP, max defense Lapras. And if I can get the rocks up, then that will help, because it'll either do 25% damage on switching, or it'll show me that he's Boots, which means that it is much easier to a KO. I don't have to worry about leftovers. So I've obviously been thinking about a lot of things to switch in to Dracovish, and Lapras has been one of the ones that's been talked about because it has Freeze Dry, which would OHKO Dracovish. Anyway, let's get into the battle. So looking at this team, I was like, I want to get my Stealth Rock up right away because I don't see any hazard removal unless he's like Defog Hydreigon. But if he's Defog Hydreigon, then it should be much easier for my team to deal with, which is really cool. So I was like, yeah, let me get my rocks up. Worst case scenario, he has Defog Hydreigon, which isn't that bad. Best case scenario, I keep my rocks up and I'm damaging everything. So I leave my Tyranitar. In my head, I was like, Fake Out Lopunny is probably a pretty good lead. I also have Defog on my Zapdos, so if he wants to lead like Stealth Rock, Lycanroc, or something like that, I can always just pivot into Zapdos and get my Defog off. I would probably not go for Rocks in the scenario of either of these two leading, just because Lycanroc can close combat me, and or I might stay in if Lycanroc close combats, but I wouldn't stay in if this thing, Lopunny, stays in, because I want to keep this thing. I do have Choppleberry on this actually, but I want to keep it safe and healthy so that I can keep the sand as a constant pressure. But anyway, let's get into it. So I led Tyranitar, lead Lopunny, and I was like, okay, this is kind of what I was thinking might happen. Lopunny's a pretty safe lead, you can just Fake Out and whatnot. So I was like, I don't really want to get faked out. I was like, I have Zapdos specifically for this thing, so of course I'm going to go right into it. Goes for the Mega Evolve, does go for the Fake Out, gets a crit. Not that big a deal since it doesn't do much, but doesn't get paralyzed. You know, I have, the reason I switched in is because I have Static, and I was trying to get that cheeky paralyzation, not to mention that I'm pretty physically defensive, so I should be able to eat the hits up pretty well. Decides to go in the Muck there, as I just like, I need to keep my Zapdos healthy. That did a little too much, that Fake Out crit. So I decided to Roost there as the thing comes in, the Muck. Doubles into this as I just go for the Volt Switch. Back into my Tyranitar, I'm like, okay, let me get my rocks up. I do just that as he reveals the Body Press, which I wasn't expecting, but I do have the Choppleberry, which makes me take only 27%. I guess I would have taken closer to 60 had I not had the Choppleberry, but I got my rocks up, which is what I wanted. My Tyranitar is still healthy, so oh yeah, I decided to just Thunder Wave. Probably a pretty risky play if I really think about it in hindsight, but I was pretty sure he wasn't gonna stay in and just click Body Press again, because I think I just was predicting, if you will. I think me switching out was pretty obvious. I think the Lickitung definitely wants some HP back, so I figured it was going to go for a Wish or something, and there was some chat going on, and I knew that he probably wouldn't expect me to stay in, so I just stayed in and Thunder Waved, and then now I switch into Cobalion, because I realized I could take a Body Press pretty well with Cobalion. He's got the Heal Bell. I figured he was either going to like Protect or Heal Bell or something to get the Wish. And that works out for me. Gets the Wish, but I am free to just Swords Dance right up as he goes for the Body Press. And an interesting thing here is that I probably could have Rock Polished. Muck is definitely a thing, and Lopunny does still have the Fake Out. Wait, did I might have run... No, the Justified Disowned ability. What was I thinking? Was there something? Oh no, I was running on the ladder. I was running a Steadfast Lycanroc for Fake Out shenanigans. But anyway, so yeah, Body Press doesn't do much. I get my Swords Dance off. Nothing switches in. Like, yeah, Muck could probably tank one hit, but is definitely not going to tank another one on the following turn, especially coming in on rocks. So things were looking pretty good for Cobalion. I decided to just click Close Combat. I take the Lickitung. Not bad. Can't pass any Wishes, can't Heal Bell or anything like that. But of course the Lopunny does come in because it outspeeds. But I still have Zapdos pretty healthy. Tank that Drain Punch. Still no Static, unfortunately, but I'll keep hoping for it. I decided to just Volt Switch because I was pretty healthy, and Muck comes in, so I decided, alright, one thing that I have that can knock this out. But he actually has Shadow Sneak, which is pretty crazy because he had Lapras, which could have come in. I was like, there's no way he goes Lapras right here. And so I did go for the Fish's Wren, but because he went for Shadow Sneak and outsped me, or outprioritized me, that meant Fish's Wren doesn't get, its double power from going first boost, so it does not KO. And the funny thing, too, is that I was also thinking of just going for the Fish's Wren the first time I click a button with Dracovish anyway, just to, like, kind of, if he goes Lapras, then he goes Lapras. And then on the following turn, I can click Low Kick, and that will serve me quite well, especially since there's no fighting resists really on this team. And here I was like, okay, he's got to be Poison Touch, and he's going to try to fish for that poison. And I was really debating it, like, should I stay in? I have Healing Wish actually on Gardevoir, so if worst case scenario I could do that, but I also was like, wait a minute, he knows I'm going to be Adamant Banded. I always said I was going to be Adamant Banded, so he's probably going to go Lapras here. And so I decided to just get out of there going to Swellow, because the other thing about Swellow is that, you know, it's a normal type. If he decided to go for a Shadow Sneak again and try to get a cheeky poison off with Poison Touch, then, you know, Swellow is in, can't out-prioritize Swellow, and then I just click Boom Burst, but does decide to go Lapras and save his Muck for, well, Stealth Rock fodder later. But yeah, Swellow is in. I was like, he could have made a play and like knocked off or something, but looking at my team, I was like, you know what, Swellow, I would be pretty okay with Swellow going down, because Swellow doesn't outspeed the Lopunny, outspeeds everything else, but, you know, doesn't do a ton of damage to Lapras, Lycanroc, or Hydreigon. Obviously would do a lot to Lopunny, but doesn't outspeed it. So I was like, you know what, let me just take the chance, and I actually get in, taking no hits, and I have the Lapras right in front of me, and I was like, if I could, and also find out that this thing is Boots, which means it doesn't have leftovers, which means it's tougher to switch in. But anyway, I just like, let me get damage off on this. Boom Burst does an over half, which is nice. Does Lapras get recovery? I don't know. He goes for the Freeze Dry, which does a lot to Swellow, but who needs health on Swellow? Sacks the Muck to the rocks there, and goes into Lopunny. And so here I was like, I could sack, but I don't want to just sack to a fake out. That seems lame. So I decided to go Zapdos once again, as he actually goes for the return. Good play. And here, sorry. So it did 42%, and I am at 39%. So it has a chance to a KO there. And I'm like, oh, I could go Tyranitar on the return, but that wouldn't really help me because then it would just close combat, but I could get the sand up. But so I was like, okay, this is actually a pretty tough switch in. I was like, my only real option is to stay in. Maybe I live it, maybe I don't, but at least I get one more attempt to static paralyze the Lopunny. So I was like, let me just stay in. Like, I doubt I'm gonna live it, but I'll click Roost anyway. And I live on 1%, get the static paralyzation, and Roost up. So Zapdos, probably the biggest tank of the season if I was gonna, if I'm gonna be preemptive. But yeah, so this is paralyzed now. I'm like, okay, well, damn, that's crazy lucky. Let me just Roost up further. Does go for another return there, but I'm now at a comfortable amount of HP. So I go for the Volt Switch to outspeed, get into Tyranitar, and he gets fully paralyzed. So that's pretty sad. Does outspeed me and just goes for the Drain Punch there, which I wasn't quite expecting. I clicked a move there to attack, and it probably would have done a lot if not KO. But I just wasn't expecting it to outspeed while paralyzed, but I guess I underestimated how slow Tyranitar is. So my Tyranitar goes down, but did get the sand up. So I'm like, damn, okay, let me get in the fish. So I do, and I just click Outrage because I was like, I could click Low Kick, but it doesn't actually KO Lopunny, and I don't want to take a return. So, yeah, and he does decide to stay in there, so it works out. So I Outrage, KO this thing. But now, in comes this, the Sand Rush Lycanroc, and I was like, well, I'm trapped into Outrage. I have a little bit of defense investment. I don't think that this thing is going to knock me out, because I didn't need to be max speed on my Dracovish to be able to outspeed things like Lopunny in the sand. So I was like, I have a little defense. What's the worst this could do to me? Like close combat, Stone Edge, maybe I could tank one. So, I mean, I didn't have an option. I had to stay in anyway, but pulls out the Play Rough, which actually KOs me, and I was not expecting that. I completely forgot that this thing gets Play Rough. And it totally caught me off guard, knocked out my Dracovish. So unfortunately, Dracovish isn't going to get a clean KD this season. It's very sad. But I do have Gardevoir specifically for opposing Sand Rushers. So I traced the Sand Rush, and I am now Scarfed as well. and there's nothing switching in on this. So this comes in, tanks one Moonblast, but obviously not going to tank another one. My sand is gone, so my sand rush isn't really that helpful anymore, but neither is his. So I'm still scarfed, and I outspeed, almost KO, and then the Stone Edge crit knocks me out. But I'm like, okay, that's got to be like Bandit or something. The way that knocked out Dracovish and the way that it knocked out Gardevoir. Of course, I'm not sure because Stone Edge might have just KO'd without the crit. I don't really know. This thing is strong. Like, I shouldn't underestimate it, but I was like, okay, he's got to be banded. Let me bring in Cobalion. And I was like, I could just click the move and KO here, but then I was like, what if he's like Scarf, Earth Power, Hydreigon? I mean, Earth Power obviously wouldn't be a great thing to lock into, but I was like, what if, like, for somehow Hydreigon like comes in and is scarfed and hits like a Dragon Pulse and manages to knock me out because I take like Life Orb damage, and that's just enough to knock me out, and he's like Specs or something. I don't know. I was like, I gotta make sure that this Hydreigon can't beat me. So I decided to go for the Rock Polish, and thankfully the which actually in hindsight probably was a really bad play, because Hydreigon, if it was scarfed, it needed a very specific move to knock out my Cobalion, which probably wouldn't have knocked out Zapdos. But then would my yeah, maybe it was the right play. I think it was the right play, because if he was Scarf and he had like Flamethrower, then I don't know if I could have won that. But if he's not Scarf, then Cobalion would just outspeed it anyway. So I don't know what I was thinking. I just click Rock Polish just to be safe, and it does turn out that he seems to be choiced into Stone Edge, which does not do much damage. So I just Iron Head there, knock him out. I don't have to lower my defenses or anything with close combat, and in comes this, and I am fast enough to outspeed and KO with close combat. So week 2 victory, thanks to Cobalion and Zapdos mainly, I'd say. So pretty dope. Shout out to Gil, aka the coach of the FC Victini Plzen. Had a long chat afterwards. Hopefully he was talking about making some transactions. Hopefully that works out for him. But yeah, thanks for watching. I'll see you guys in the next week of the VDL, and leave a like if you're enjoying. Hit that subscribe, and I'll catch you in the next one. Peace out. Keep dreaming. Okay, bye.